What's going on, guys? It's official. I'm under contract on this mobile home park, and hopefully I'm buying this thing in probably about a month. So I'll drive you around it a little bit. I probably won't show a whole lot. That's the nicest home in this whole park, and the owner actually owns that, which is excluded from the sale. I'll explain that a little bit later, but here, let me put the camera on the front side and I'll kind of drive you through the park. This thing is not pretty. It's ugly. It needs some work. We've got 4 vacant lots in the park right now with multiple of the homes, including that one and that one, that are actually abandoned, as well as that one over there. So there's a lot of homes in here that we'll have to pull out, that we'll have to renovate and hopefully get resold. So this is the end down here. It just ends in this cul-de-sac. That guy's boat is not allowed here. He needs to get rid of that thing. But the property line actually ends somewhere in this cul-de-sac, so I won't own that grass. However, I thought about maybe trying to put up some storage units back here if I could potentially buy it from whoever owns it. All right, so we're flipping back around here. And this park, one of the reasons why I love it is it's really close to one of the other parks that I own. So the same manager can oversee both of them. So a little spec info on the park. So there's actually 21 spaces. 17 of them are occupied with homes. And then there is, I'm trying to think how many of the homes, there's 2 salvageable homes out of the ones that are abandoned. So there's actually 5 abandoned homes that are empty, including that one, this is one of them that I believe we're gonna be able to salvage. You know, paint it, reskirt it, repair the inside. And then obviously as time goes on, we will have to, fill all the vacant lots. Another thing I just want to add here is the road you can see is in pretty bad shape. So it's going to be something, that we're going to have to go through and replace over time. All right, in one of my previous videos, you probably saw this home back here, which you're probably not going to recognize it right now, but I actually bought that home with the intentions of buying the entire park. So let me pull in there real quick. Actually, I'm wondering if I have the key to get inside. Maybe we'll go check it out. All right, well, I don't have the key, but this is the home, and I've already made a video over here about the home, but I bought this thing for about $5 grand. And the reason why I bought it was because I wanted to build a relationship with the seller or the owner of this entire park, in hopes that I can build that relationship and finally convince him to sell it. And I was able to convince him to sell it. And I think that because I own this home and he saw that I was being responsible with it, I think that definitely did help convince him to sell me the entire park. So I'm just standing on the back property line right now. So the line is somewhere right about here. However, the seller of the park, or the owner of the park, has been maintaining all of this green space all the way down. So I still got to figure out if that's something I'm going to keep doing, or if I'm going to, tell the owner over there that, hey, I'm no longer going to take care of this. So my plan for this home will be to, fix it up, paint it on the outside, clean it all up, and then I'll probably put it for sale and I'll sell it on like a rent to own contract. So, their rent that they're paying every single month will go towards paying off the home. I'm actually headed to my P.O. box to pick up the rent for the month. There's probably not many envelopes in there. I've already been there a couple times this month. And actually most of my tenants pay online, but I'm gonna take you guys with me anyways. But guys, the biggest point I've got to make about this park that I'm buying is consistency and just keep on reaching out to them sellers. So this park legit took me 3 years to convince them to sell it to me. I remember the first time I called the guy, I was calling him to, try to build a relationship with him. It was, again, 3 years ago. I didn't know a whole lot about parks back then. So when I called him up, I said something like, hey, my name's Kyle, and, I'm wanting to buy mobile home parks, and just wondering if you would potentially sit down with me and, kind of tell me about what it's like owning a mobile home park. And I remember he cut me off so fast. He's like, no, not interested, and hung up. So I made a note of that in my CRM, which I use, Podio, to keep track of, all those conversations. And I remember I called him back, a couple months later, and it was, he was really short, the same way. And I don't know how long it actually took for him to warm up to me a little bit, but it was like at least a year before he'd really have a real conversation with me. So I learned through talking to this guy, you know, he seemed very rude, very, you know, blunt and almost mean. But what I learned was he is just that way. That's just how his personality is. And he wasn't really trying to be rude or mean. So, you know, that's one thing you guys can take away is, you know, on the phone with these sellers, it's hard to read them. It's hard to know what they're really thinking. So don't, you know, get taken, don't be disappointed when it seems like they hate your guts, because maybe they don't really. But one thing I did find out that was very interesting, and I didn't find this out until right before we signed the contract. The guy who, you know, I was talking to was rude. He wanted to sell me the park from day one when I first called him 3 years ago. It's his wife who didn't want to sell the park. So come to find out, she had a ton of sentimental feelings, or however you say that, towards the park, because she, as a kid, was in the park all the time because her dad owned it before, you know, her and her husband then bought it eventually. It's funny now because every time I talk to this guy on the phone, he's like, man, we should have sold this stupid thing 20 years ago. I've hated this thing ever since we've owned it. So, you know, my point is, you never know the full story until you know the full story. So don't start assuming things. But so just a little bit more overview about the whole process. So again, I reached out to him about 3 years ago. It took me, you know, almost his full 3 years to finally warm up to him. He would start to call me on the phone and be like, hey, Kyle, you know, there's this home inside our park. They're not paying the rent and they would consider selling it. Do you want to come look at it? And maybe you should buy it. And I knew that that was meaning he was building trust in me and he was going to allow me to actually own a home in that park. So I decided not to buy, you know, a majority of the homes that he offered me. However, one did finally come up, which I've showed you guys that home before. It's the one we just walked through. So I paid about $5 grand for that home. And I knew that, you know, I was buying it only because I wanted to try to get in with the seller. And I found that that has helped in the past. If you own a home in this park, if you're paying them on time, if you're being responsible, if he sees you're fixing up that property, you're going to probably have a better shot at actually buying the park in the future. So I can't share with you quite yet exactly what I'm paying for the park. It's not closed yet, so I got to keep that confidential because maybe some of you know where this park is. However, I will say this, we agreed on a price and I think it's about what it's worth, maybe a little bit under what it's worth. However, I did have the sewer inspection done and there was some big red flags that came back, the sewer and the water lines. So I'll keep you guys updated, but I'm probably gonna have to go back to the seller and say, hey, look, you know, I can't do this deal for this price. So if he's not willing to come down on his price, then this deal may potentially fall apart, but I will keep you updated with that. So if I look at my overall goals with these mobile home parks, yes, I would like to keep some of them, you know, long-term as just cash flowing, you know, cash generating vehicles for me that pay me every single month. But I think that there is a small window of time in the next, you know, 5 years where these parks are going to start getting bought up by, you know, these huge investors with all these, you know, investors' money. I'm planning to package up as many of them as I can in my area, and then potentially in the next 5 years, I will, you know, once I've stabilized them, I'll just go ahead and resell them again. Because when you have a package of properties that are already performing, you've got all the financials for them, you can sell those off to a bigger investor for a premium. You know, right now, like these little parks that I'm buying, half the times the sellers have no clue what's going on. They don't have leases. They don't know even, you know, who's really paying and who's not. So a lot of times there's a lot of value in finding these off market mom and pop deals, going in there, fixing them up, getting really good financials in place, so that you can show the future buyer someday. And then eventually when you have all the parks, you know, stabilized, package them up and sell them for a premium. I'll make a video about my 2021 goals. However, if I end up closing on this park, I'm gonna be over 100 units total, which is awesome, which is crazy. However, I'm planning to double my portfolio in 2021, which means I need to get up to over 160 units because right now I'm at a little over 80 units. So it's a huge goal, but I think we're gonna do it and hopefully you follow along and you'll find out. I do have that one other park under contract, if you remember. It's 38 spaces. It's from the old elderly lady that I made videos with before. So you can go back and watch those. I'm still under contract and I'm still planning on closing. And we're supposed to close on that probably sometime in March to April. All right, so I'm still out walking and I want to show you guys a little mobile home park here that is very well maintained. This is the goal of pretty much all of my parks. You can see most of the homes in here are vinyl sided with shingle roof. They've all got really nice skirting. Everyone has, good pride of ownership. All the homes are very well maintained and look nice and clean. See, even some of these older homes here look really good. I mean, that's a really old home, but still very well maintained. It looks great. The two most important things that keep your park nice are, first of all, a good lease that spells out your expectations for the residents, and then a good manager, whether you're managing yourself or there's somebody in the park doing it for you who can enforce those rules. This is a really good look I got going on, right? But guys, anyways, thanks for watching the video. As always, I appreciate you guys. If you're not subscribed, make sure you do that. Hit the like button, and we'll see you in the next one.